Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of Worship Wednesday on our podcast. Full disclosure, I have already recorded this prior to this episode, and through the powers of technology, I either forgot to press record or it got lost in the iCloud of the world. But regardless, we're here to help you guys. So we're going to do it again. The same 5 songs for another hour. So appreciate you guys hanging on if I feel like I'm speaking redundantly or repeating myself, but we're gonna have a fun time. It's gonna be good. So we're gonna jump right into our first tune, which just so happens to be Freedom by Bethel. No, Jesus Culture. I was gonna say same difference, but there are differences. So but anyways, as we scroll over to our good old Dropbox, you're going to see the original is in G. We do it in F. And so as I open this bad boy up, bam, 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 I'm going to close, or not close, make this a little smaller. But yeah, the first thing that jumped out at me is the fact that these first 4 chords, 6 minor, 4, 1 to the 3 minor, are actually the chords of a song called Sky Full of Stars by Coldplay, which is so funny and ironic. Just because a lot of times in worship and or the music industry in general, if you get influenced by a certain song, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to use it in some way, shape, or form in your own music. And this one not only takes on the chords, chord progression, but also kind of the sound, right? It's got a little bit more electronic vibe to it, other than that guitar line, right? Or piano. But for the most part, yeah, it's a cool thing to pay respects to those that you listen to, especially in the secular world. But at the same time, you don't want to get too caught up in, I'm not gonna say plagiarizing, because there's a lot more that goes into plagiarizing. But yeah, so not a good, not a bad thing necessarily, but one thing that you could use to your advantage if you were to pick out things from Sky Full of Stars from Coldplay and incorporate it into the worship. I mean, that's kind of fun. I don't think they would do it vice versa, because why would they? But yeah. So other than that, it says don't remember it going back into the song at the end. So yeah, so you'll notice when we look at the chart, straightforward format: intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Then we do the bridge: chains will fall, prisons shake at the sound of Jesus' name. And then it goes do 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 do. Back in the chorus: Spirit of the Lord is there is freedom, there is freedom. Back to the intro, do 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 do. And then it ends, right? Well, yeah, I don't think I've ever gone back into it as far as worship goes, unless it was something organic that happened, or the pastor came up and was like, let's sing that again, but in the record they go back into the pre-chorus, which just happens to be run into wide open spaces. I know I'm changing keys as I'm singing all these things, so I apologize. But yeah, back into the chorus and then end. So just in case you feel led to play it like the record, just know that that's what they do. I don't think I remember anything being different in that regard, being different as far as the pre-chorus, the chorus being different chords or melodies or drum parts. So, but if you catch anything, and once again, you feel like incorporating that into the original normal version, cool. But if not, no worries. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy that jumped out at me. I'm looking at the writers now. Yeah, no one's really jumping out at me, but yeah, pretty straightforward. So we go to the next tune, Give Me Jesus. So I actually have a lot of things to say about this song, ironically. Before we go any further, though, original is in G. We play it in either F or C sharp. I'm assuming F might be the girl key, and then C sharp is the guy key, possibly. I usually, full disclosure, I usually don't sit in on main service at our church. And so anything that gets played, I just have to, kind of naturally figure out what they might have been thinking or doing. We do have a live stream that we put out on YouTube, but we don't ever leave the worship in. So I don't usually go back and listen to it other than the message. So just little background on that bad boy. So in case I say anything like that. But yeah, so other than doing it in F and C sharp, I don't know about you guys, but this song actually, and you know what? It's so funny. I now see that this says Matt Stinton. That is definitely not the writer. Um, long story short is when I saw this song on the list, right? The list of songs that we do in main service, I was like, oh, I know that song. It's from the Tides album from Bethel back in like 2013. And I was like, I love that song. I found it very surprising that we would have done it in a main service now. But then I thought maybe it was a worship night, or maybe it was like a special song that we did. We don't do like offering songs necessarily while people are doing their tithes and offerings. But, I was just like, well, whatever. And then, as the gears started turning in my head, I looked at the planning center and I was like, oh, this is not the same song. This is a totally different song. And still from Bethel, still called Give Me Jesus. But like the length of the song was way off. I want to say the tempo was maybe a little different. But so I did some more digging. And, long story short is back in 2013, obviously, they had a song from this writer, Matt Stinton, and they put it out. It was on the Tides album. I'm actually going to go to my Internet Explorer really quick just to see if I can pop it up. So, there's this song, right? There's the Give Me Jesus Bethel, came out in 2024, obviously very recent, actually this year. And so I was like, okay, click the video, listen to the song. I was like, yeah, this is not the same song, other than the chorus, which is similar vocally and lyrically. But yeah, give me Jesus, you can have all this world. And then the other one I know is give me Jesus. But theirs goes, you can have all this world, you can have all this world. So I knew something was up, and I was like, okay, I'll just like search it, right? Give me Jesus. And then I have to put Bethel because there's other versions. And I'm like, oh, look, there's a different version. Oh, look, it's made by Matt Stinton. Oh, look, it's from 2013. And I'm like, no charts, no nothing, no video. I'm like, that's interesting. Then what else did I do? I went to, then I Googled it. I Googled Give Me Jesus. I was like, well, maybe this is like a hymn that I don't know about. And like, lyrically it's very modern, or sorry, not modern, it's very common to use like a public domain song. And sure enough, I found another, like it says hymn information, African American spiritual by this arranger, and then it has the vocals I'm used to, give me Jesus, you may have all this world, give me Jesus. But none of these scriptures popped out at me saying like, oh yeah, it's those lyrics and da 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 da. And so I was just tripping. And then the last kind of nail in the coffin, no pun intended, but if you actually look up the Tides album for Bethel, and they have a live album, but they also have a studio version. Studio version is what I know. And other than Tides, which is the title track, right, which is a very short instrumental thing, it's not even, I don't know if they wrote this album at the beach or what, but there must have been some background for the name of Tides. But the only other song that's not on the album here on multi-tracks is Give Me Jesus. So just very interesting stuff. So if you guys know any backstory on this, please type it in the comments or send me a little email, scott@onlywaytoplay.com. But yeah, I just thought that was very interesting, to say the least. So now we can actually get into the song. First thing I noticed was there's this cool bass line that goes into the bridge. And for the most part, the songs are the chords are pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. Um, we're gonna get into the drum side of this because the drums really spoke out to me, just because it's just very cool. I like what the drums are doing in this song. But yeah, so back here, so the bass line, um, it's a walk up to the one, so da-na, and then they go 5 1 4 1 3. That's what the bass does, right? Da-na-na-na-na-na, and then they go into the bridge. So if you're a bass player, definitely make note of that because it would be cool to play. But then the kicker in the bridge, I believe it's just the bridge, is this double halftime. And I've actually gotten not called out for this from other drummers, but long story short here is I was playing with one of our drummers at church, and we were doing halftime. So you have straight, right? I'll try to show you my knee. No, I can't show you my knees because my camera goes up and follows me. But so this is just straight. 1 2 3 4, snare on 2 3 4. Then halftime is the snares on 3. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Then what I call double halftime, which I think is a common thing. I don't know. But it's basically the snare doesn't hit till the next one of the next bar. So 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3. So it's super cool. It's very like metal rock, hard rock based kind of stuff. But they do it in this song and it's super cool. I really like it. I think it adds a lot to it. Even if you go from halftime to double halftime, it'd be cool. But whatever you call it, just know that's what it is. That's what it sounds like. We also have this picked bass thing in the last bridge, which I kind of liked. And then in that section, I wish it actually went halftime there. I don't think they do it there. But the other thing I noticed is you can tell, and this is in general, right? For a lot of live worship songs, they do overdub. Okay, an overdub is just simply redoing a bass line, or redoing all the bass, redoing all the guitars, and especially the vocals. Because when you're in a live worship experience and you're doing your thing, you drop the mic or your hair gets in the way or whatever. And so this song, as you're watching it on the video, Bethel and or Jesus Culture, they're very free, right, with their worship, to the point where they might be sitting on the ground, they might be like in the back corner. They do have flags, they do have people painting, they have all these types of other elements of worship. But if you're actually recording it and you have someone that's rocking back and forth on the floor with the hair in the face and the body moving, you're gonna hear that in some way, shape, or form, or at least you're gonna feel it in the vocal dynamically. And it's not like we're using condenser mics here in a live performance. You're going to be using a dynamic mic, which is very sensitive to, if you move it any which way, you're going to lose the vocal. You're going to, you can do compression, you can do all these other effects. But at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, what they probably did was they just overdubbed it. So it's just somebody who's going back, probably watching the video or listening back to the vocal that they actually sang and just repeating it, but in a controlled environment. So, it's not misleading necessarily, because 9 times out of 10, the drums are always real. The drums are always at least the live take that was there. And what they might do is they might do what they call trigger. So they add sounds to the drums later in post-production to where it always sounds like the same snare hit, kick, all that stuff. They might set it to a grid as well. So they might, put it in perfect timing. And then everybody else after the fact comes and plays on top of that. So anyways, in this song, it was very apparent to me while watching the video that probably a lot of this stuff was overdubbed, which is fine. But don't be discouraged if you're watching these people worship and they sound so good and perfect vocals and blah blah blah. It's more so about the recording necessary, more so than just recording the live performance, if that makes sense. So if you have any questions though, hit me up. We can definitely talk more about it, because yeah, it could be kind of confusing. So, and last but not least, the last bridge one, which let's see, yeah, so last bridge one, which I don't know why I don't have more than one bridge, but uh yeah, anyways. Double halftime there as well, which is kind of cool. So overall, I know it's a lot of background of the song, not necessarily about the song in general, but yeah, pretty cool. Okay. Now we got a fun one. Goodbye Yesterday from the good old Elevation Rhythm. Woo woo. Yeah, we're definitely gonna listen to the vocals on this track, I believe, because one, I won't probably get copyright claimed for it, but two, it's very special, very unique, and I really liked what they did vocally on this song. But yeah, a new band essentially. I mean, I don't know how long they've been together, but a couple of years for sure, and they've just been killing it with these new songs. We've got the open guitar line, which is really cool. One thing I said is it reminds me of a song that some professional musicians would listen to, be like, yeah, it's straightforward, no worries, like I got this. But it is very dynamic. It's very sensitive to building and building and building. There's a reason why they add more chords over time. There's a reason why things are more syncopated as the sections go on. And if you notice, I have right here, I have chorus one, I have chorus two, I have a chorus three, I also have a verse one, I have a verse two, I also have a verse three, and last but not least, I have a bridge one. Not only that, I have a post bridge one. Then we have a bridge two. So inevitably, you've basically got three different choruses, three different verses, and three different bridges that are happening simultaneously in this song. So for some who might listen to it and be like, oh yeah, it's like totally straightforward, I could totally get this song, simple, whatever. It's actually kind of complicated. And even if you have these charts, even if you have these parts in front of you, you really do have to pay attention to those details. Otherwise, you're either going to get lost or you're just going to get frustrated because you won't be able to play with the band. And that's like the worst feeling ever, is not being able to play with the band, especially in worship. So, um, but yeah, we're going to highlight the vocals in a second. I love the fact that they literally start on the one. They had this 1-4-3-4 chord progression that they not only used for the verse one, but chorus two and chorus three. And chorus three is literally just this last few lines right here. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. I've got resurrection in my veins. So that's really the only difference between those two. And then really the only difference, actually, vocally, the verse one, two, and three, and yeah, one, two, and three are all the same words, but the chords change. So vocally, this song is actually really, really straightforward, to the point where you'd only have to learn one verse, one chorus, and technically multiple bridges, but the bridges are pretty easy to follow. So yeah, verse, we've got verse two, a little bit of a walk-up thing that lands on the 6 minor, 2 minor 5, and then bridge, very syncopated, bum bum, I've decided, bum bum, to follow Jesus. The I won't turn back. Then to verse 3 is probably the most complicated thing. We have this 7-1, 4-1, or 4-1, and then 4-5-6, da da. Oh, look, I gotta fix this. See how it's not in the numbers. But yeah, I think that's a little walk up I think it's 7-1, 7-1, 2 minor 5. Uh, and then if you don't notice, that there's 3 pages to the song, you might think it just ends right here, but nope, there's a whole other second/third bridge. I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. The chords are cool because they don't really repeat. It kind of walks up, it does some changes, and then ends on the 4. But overall, this song is just, it's rocking. It reminds me of, when I started playing in church, like really playing in church, it was like the late 2000s. And we were very into guitar driven songs, like from Planet Shakers, obviously Hillsong. But at the end of the day, when you can have a style and a genre of music that just makes you want to move, makes you want to lift your hands and worship, that to me is the best kind. So it could be fast, it could be slow, mid tempo, whatever it is. As long as it's got that life to it, Speaking of like the living word of God, we have to have the living word of music, right? We have to have music that makes us want to move, want to speak out, want to praise the Lord, and also just write some cool things that are very memorable, but also simple at the same time. And this song to me is a good highlight of that. So definitely check it out if you haven't already, because it is very good. Oh, and before we stop, we're gonna check out these vocals because I like listening to it. It sounds really good. And so we're gonna scroll over here real quick. Let's see, we get right here maybe. I won't turn back. No. Fall behind, cross before. Again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You strayed in my sorrow. There's nothing to fix. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. Again and again and again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You strayed in my sorrow. There's nothing to sing. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived. Praise the Lord, I've been born again. Praise the Lord, I've been hands up. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. Oh yeah. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. Yeah. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. I love that. Yeah. So cool. So yeah, guys, check it out. Super cool, super dope. Yeah. All right, second to last, Goodness of God. Okay, original is in A flat. We do it in E flat. I guess I'll go to E flat. Why not? Yeah, so if you haven't heard this song before, it's very obviously well known. It's very it's 4/4 slower song, so definitely be at the end of your worship set. But when it comes to Bethel, obviously they're very great writers, very good worshipers. And yeah, this is a good, straightforward worship song. Sometimes stylistically it might not fit your church, or it might not be as energetic as you'd like. But if you're wanting to do a Bethel song and you're wanting to do something to introduce Bethel to your church, this would be a great song to do. Or if you've got a specific song that your pastor wants to theme around the goodness of God, this is a great song to do that with. One thing that's funny though, when they start the song, it kind of reminds me of Good Grace by Hillsong. People come together, friends and neighbors, found as one. So that's what's funny too, is sometimes different songs trigger other songs to me. Like I just talked about the last couple of tunes ago, Coldplay with Sky Full of Stars. But yeah, so other than these few parentheses chords that I have here, which uh, this implies to me at least that you're not going to do this every time, but occasionally they add in these certain chords. So it's a trick that you could do. Like this one doesn't have a parentheses, so I assume that means I'm always going to play it there, but occasionally I'm not going to play it like over here. And all this is just a little walk up to the next chord. So is it the end of the world if you don't play it? Not really. But vocally, one thing that Jen Johnson does for the Bethel sound is she's got this tonality that she does, and there's a lot of artists out there that they have a unique sound, right? When they sing, it's usually more like the indie kind of music. They have just a very unique tone and whatever it might be. Well, Jen, she has this different like it reminds me of the guys that Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake kind of mimic, and they're not making fun of them, but they're mimicking them. Where they've got this metal sound like this when you're talking, and so all my life you have been faithful. Like they do this little throat kind of sing, and that's something that you want to clarify to your team. If you're the worship leader or if you're in a vocal, the vocal BGV group, that's just something you want to clarify. It's like if you're singing, speaking of Justin Timberlake, if you're singing in sync, right? And if you're going to say it's going to be May, even though it's technically is written, it's going to be me. You have to kind of communicate those things. Otherwise, it could be confusing. Because later in the song too, she doesn't always do that. It's more so when she's trying to be intimate and she's trying to be more passionate, or it's just the volume's not as loud, so she doesn't belt it. But yeah, this is one thing I would definitely communicate to the team, just because hey, you guys all want to sound the same because that's what makes the vocals sound good. But yeah, other than these little walk-up chords, I know looks like there's a lot of changes, but for the most part, it can be played pretty simply. And yeah, nothing crazy. But once again, if you're looking for a Bethel song to introduce your church, or once again, if it also has a theme and a message of talking about the goodness of God, this is a great tune to do. So, all right, last but not least, Gratitude by Brandon Lake. It's kind of cool. I saw there's a Brandon Lake podcast, or not Brandon Lake podcast, but he was on this other YouTubers podcast recently. So I got to check out that video. But yeah, because it's not a lot of times you hear from a worship artist for like over an hour on a podcast. So there could be a lot of good things to hear from the horse's mouth, of the songs that we sing. But yeah, once again, it's in B originally, but we do it in D. So I will go to D, and yeah, kind of cool backstory. This song, studio wise, is like the live version, but I noticed when I was splitting the stems just to get all the different parts, right? The vocals, the drums, bass, and then guitars and keys separated so that I could send it to the team. I realized there are no drums in the studio version, which could be very confusing if that's the song you reference for your team. So if you are going to do this song, I definitely recommend doing the live version, simply because from what I could tell, the whole song is the same in the live version versus and the studio version. There could be obviously little things in the studio version that you're not going to hear if there's orchestration or just different electronic kind of key elements. But for the most part, the song form is exactly the same. If you put the waveforms together and just put them side by side, they look exactly the same. But the cool thing is they go into this cool ending, which we'll probably listen to it just because I think it's that good to listen to. But yeah, I literally had to change the version on our planning center from the studio version to the live version because of this reason, because I just knew there was no drums. It also is a waltz. So, if you're into songs in 6 or 3, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. This is obviously a good song to do that with. Kind of hard to transition in and out of, though, if you're trying to connect it, even if they're in the same key. You got to be mindful that if the timing, the clicks, all that stuff don't match up, it could be confusing for the team. But yeah, pretty straightforward. I did like the way in the live version, Brandon did do his falsetto stuff, which is cool, really echoey, and it just builds the dynamics of like the bridge. But the main thing to me was this outro. And it's very simple. It's a very quick little change to the song in general. Reminds me of something like the Beatles would do. Sometimes when you take a what normally is a major chord and make it minor, or play the major chord and then make it minor, it just adds this little change that, oh, it's like, we don't usually hear that. And it doesn't really fit in the harmonized major scale, what we would normally do with the number system, but it still works, and you can still communicate those changes to the team, even with the number system. So yeah, we're going to take a listen to it, but simply it's one, like the bridge, right? It goes 1 5 4 and then 1 5. Well, the outro is just 1 5 minor 4 4 minor. So yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of listen to it, because once again, it's just that good. Now, this is in the key of D. It's going to sound a little, well, you know what? I'm going to go back to B, because I just don't want it to sound too chipmunky. We don't need to listen to chipmunks. So yeah, the waveform. So like this waveform right here, they both end right there, right? And it literally looks the same.
And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king.
So remember, that's a major. It's a happy chord. 4 major to 4 minor. Very cool. And then they just build it. And you wouldn't think that certain vocals would work over it, but they go into the bridge. He's singing the chorus, I believe. Yeah, he's singing the chorus. Sorry, I stopped it too early. But no, the one other thing I wish he would have done was, because vocally, you can embrace that major minor change. Come on, my soul, don't be shy on me, lift up your song, because you got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Like you could have, would have, should have done that. And if I do this song, I'm definitely gonna do this aspect of it somehow, some way, even if it's like cutting the song shorter, so I can go into that breakdown, or even replace the actual bridge with those chords. Make it feel like it was that live ending, right? But then go into this build, and it'd be super cool because it's the song, right? It's the same song, same vibe, but just adding those little elements of musicality can really just, I don't know, it just takes your worship to a different level. And there's something to be said about doing the unexpected in worship, something that people don't anticipate. And as long as people can embrace it and hear it as like that gives me goosebumps, or that gives me, that gives me a feeling of just happiness. I can't really explain that aspect of it all, but it does something to me. It touches my heart, and that's going to reflect in my worship. So if I was leading the song vocally, or even just playing rhythm guitar, I'm going to start hopping more. I'm going to start jumping and praising more. And, as a worship team, you want to be a mirror, right? You want to be a mirror of the congregation. So if you're not jumping, worshiping, praising God, then don't expect the congregation to do that, because that's not how it works. It is mutual. It's a mutual kind of relationship, but at the same time, we have to lead, right? We have to lead the pack, and that's just a great way to do it. So anyways, guys, appreciate you checking out the podcast. Once again, I apologize if this being my second round, because of technical difficulties, that it wasn't sounding redundant, or I wasn't, speaking, foolishness. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.